There's Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Thank you for being part of our advanced workshop this year. I wish you were here in person, but it'll happen another time.
Absolutely.
We are interested in talking to a few experts and people who have been successful and have made an important contribution to what we are doing, and to try to get a sense of where people started and where they were before humor and laughter came into their lives, and any advice that we can get, and decisions that you made or people that influence you, and what you're jazzed about now, what are you into now? So all of those things. Maybe we should start with what were you doing before humor and laughter were part of your life?
I was a dog groomer for 20 years. And at the time that I met you, I was working with some seniors doing a senior lunch program. And I read back in that insert in the Sunday paper, something about this World Laughter Tour and Steve Wilson. And the moment I read it, I went and within 20 minutes had registered. Looked at my calendar, said, I'm free those dates. I can drive to Columbus. There was something that just drew me in. And I thought, what a great thing to do with the seniors. And 15 years ago, made that decision. It was probably among the best decisions I've made in my life with where it's gone and where it might lead to still in the future. But truly, there was just something within me that didn't even hesitate. And I think really when we trust that sometimes and we act from a place outside of the mental, because we can overthink things, right? What's my budget? Do I have time? Can I take off of work? And instead I went, I have a car. I know where Columbus is. I'm in. And I was registered that day after reading that. And so that was a big decision.
I think a lot of people have come to World Laughter Tour because they felt some attraction, some affinity to it. We don't twist arms. We're not aggressive in saying, if you don't do this, your life will be ruined. Or if you really want to be wonderful and all that, rich and famous, we don't do any of that. We say, this is what we do. And then people say, I think that's for me. And you were one of those people. And you made that decision. Were you in the habit of trusting decisions? Is that something you...
Yeah, I really was by then. I just always honored that. And there's not a lot of times that happens. But I will tell you, one of the things I share with people when I encourage them if they're interested in training, and I've done a lot of trainings and certifications like many people in the room, and I think the differentiator is what you're experiencing right now. It becomes a family. It's not a 3 days and done, good luck, hope you can do it. We have so many support systems in place to help each other. And I try to explain to people that there is nowhere in the country, probably now growing into the world, where if I put out onto our group and said, hey, I'm traveling to Omaha, anybody want to put me up and show me your town? That there would be a laughter leader who would say, come on, I got room for you. And I will venture to say that now I've moved to Florida. Many of you might be making that call to me this morning. And I've got a room. And it's that kind of feeling, that intimacy and that feeling you're part of something, that everybody is there to help each other for the greater good. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens by design. And it happens because of the type of people that are attracted to this work.
You were very well established in Buffalo. You
Yes,
had a great reputation. You had a great reputation, spent a lot of time there. You were very well known. How do you make a decision then to go and move to Florida? And some people are asking for your address.
Give me a call, y'all are welcome.
How do you make a decision like that? What kinds of things influence you?
What happened is that we had a winter y'all might have heard about where 7 feet of snow fell, and the whole rest of that winter never pretty much went above freezing, and you couldn't reach high enough to plow the snow out of your driveway. And at that point, the following year, my fiance got a job offer in Florida and said, bye, I'm so done with snow. And so I came as a drag along. And it is a challenge to start over, to take what you have built for all of those years And still getting people saying, can you come speak at this? Can you come speak at that? And me having to say, I'm not there anymore. I'll be glad to jump on a plane, not in the winter, but to start over again here and to take everything I've learned. And that's what I'm in the process of now, is starting to put together lists, you know, the different senior groups, the different churches. I'm speaking at a conference here now. The more I start to get out with the programs, then it will start to build, because people will be in the audience, they'll be involved in things, they'll start to ask, oh, now I've heard you. But it's very humbling when you go from where you're always being asked to speak to silence. And if you believe in the message, you build again, you reach more people. You just don't stop. Nobody said being a speaker is easy, because it's not, but there's nothing like it.
We've learned a lot from you about marketing. People have come to us from professions in which marketing is not necessarily something they need to know about, because of you know, if they're working in a hospital, patients are coming in, they're lined up. If they're in a medical practice, sometimes that happens. Or social workers, their caseload is enormous. And we talk about the necessity of everybody who wants to make the world a better place to learn a little bit of marketing. If you want to be a laughter leader, if you want to have a laughter club, you got to get people to come into the room.
Right.
Whether you charge a fee or do it for free, getting people to come in, that's called marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are there some things that you might share with us about that? A couple of your best tips, your best
Sure.
secrets?
Absolutely. Be bold, pick up the phone, make calls, make connections. I think people are so afraid of that. But what I have learned is that reporters are looking for stories. Local papers are looking, you know, to fill space. You have to have the hook. You have to have the angle. But if you are willing to pick up that phone, and I call it the call, send, call method, I will call a station and say, you know, I'm running a laughter club at a cemetery. I'd love to have you cover that, because I want the community to know. So I stress the community service angle of it. May I send you information? Now, what email should I send it to, so they know to expect it, because they get tons of emails? Then I call and follow up. So it's a call, send, call, but you have to go to them in a way that is not self-serving so much as community service. That's what they're looking for. Otherwise, pay to advertise on their station. So I will work with that. I will offer to write articles. If you have a senior magazine or paper in your town, would you like me to submit an article about laughter in the holidays? Now we're getting a little late for a December issue, but the start of the year, Stephen, your own material that I have with the holidays, everybody asking for a copy, it's phenomenal. It talks about the January really is the highest time for depression and suicide because of the holidays being over. And so be willing to go out and write an article for some papers maybe about that. Start to build that. Start to blog and get your information out on sites with big SEO, right? Search engine optimization. People are finding me because if they put in Laughter Buffalo or Laughter whatever, I'm going to come up, not because of the Laugh Academy. I'm sorry to say, I'm just not that great at it, but because I was in the Buffalo News. They've got good SEO. So start to try to get yourself out in front of these places where they're going to use you as the expert. And when you're unsure what to write, send somebody else within the group the article to review, because you have, you know, so many people willing to help each other.
You can see why one of the most powerful webinars that we recorded with Nancy is called 60 Ideas in 60 Minutes. 60 business ideas in 60 minutes. And here they are, rapid fire. Thank you for always sharing and always being so generous. Okay, so how do you get to do laughter in a cemetery? Let's start with that.
Well, I guess first you can get a job there like I did, but if not, you can go and make a call and ask a funeral home or a cemetery. But it's really about where are you bringing the laughter? And it may not be as odd as mine was, of the juxtaposition of the death and the laughter. but it could be at another location where you can use that in some way. And so for me, of course, that crazy combination got me to go to New York to audition for America's Got Talent. And I always tell people the story, I don't have talent, but it got me there in front of a room of producers, and what a fabulous experience it was. And no disappointment that I wasn't the one chosen, because it wasn't my journey to have, and it was incredible. And every minute of where this road takes us is unexpected. I mean, it just is. But we have to be willing. I'm just going to keep saying the word. You got to be willing to be bold. You don't have to be confident, by the way. Most of the time I'm not. I'm just bold and willing to try. When Steve asked me, let's do 60 ideas, I'm like, he's pushing me again to something I don't know if I can do. And then we do it. And that's what we do.
And your stint with America's Got Talent will forever live in the legend and lore of the World Laughter Tour. They were looking for some people. And speaking of another snowstorm, didn't that happen? Weren't you in it?
Yeah, I was there during a historic record-breaking blizzard in New York City. I had to fly in Friday instead of Saturday because I knew the storm was hitting Saturday, and they assured me Monday they would have that audition Monday morning no matter what. So remember, you have to be willing. Number one, say yes. When Steve said, would you submit something? I wasn't planning to. Say yes, try it. When you have that commitment, are you really going to be there? Yes. All right, I'll find a way to make sure I make it to the city. There was nothing that was going to stop me. So I went in a day early. I'm from Buffalo. I had my snow boots and scarf. I got to watch the city get wrapped up in a blizzard, walking Times Square where they were making snowmen, streets shut down, no traffic in the city, no cabs. It was magical. It was an amazing experience. Watch the city clean up from it. And on Monday, walk into a room with some frazzled producers who had to take about 8 different planes trying to find their way into the city. But you always say yes.
Your ability to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And not be so concerned about the outcome. Eventually, just enjoy the experience.
Right. But another piece of that, and I guess I just want to share, because you're asking me what have I learned? I hired a coach. That audition was out of my wheelhouse. You had a very short amount of time to present a lot of information about who you are, be ready for any questions they'd send my way. I don't audition. I just get hired and show up. I hired an actor who also did improv comedy, who had auditioned many times, and he agreed to work with me. So I was prepared. And you have to be willing to ask for that help so that you're ready for these experiences that really are out of your wheelhouse, that you're just not sure you know what to do. Go find out.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about the family of origin. Was the family you came from, were they speakers? Were they funny? Do you think that this comes out of that background or a departure from that?
Oh, I had funny grandparents. I did. I mean, we honored humor, and our humor may not have been appropriate, as we talk about appropriate and, understood humor within a family. But I mean, my grandma lived to be 109 years old, and she had a little toy drawer, and even my children would come and play, and my grandma would sit on the floor and play with them with bubbles and toys, and it was just honored in our family. My grandfather, we would drive and he would joke, and this is a man who was a Holocaust survivor and yet used humor as a coping tool. And so, yeah, we did use humor, but there's a really big difference of liking to use humor and understanding it. And that's the other part of it, is what you all are doing right now is the understanding it. Researching, reading the articles, taking advantage of these opportunities, because that's what sets us apart. We really dive deep into what is happening physiologically. We are wired for laughter. We're wired for it. Why? Answer that and you've got a career.
Okay. You've been important to the World Laughter Tour, and you've stuck with us. You've been encouraging us. You've been part of us for almost from day one, really almost a charter kind of a member. Why do you think you stuck with us so long?
I like you.
Okay, fair enough.
family we've created, of course, but it's also more than that. Working in the grief industry, I say to people, I could not sit with people in the level of pain they're in if I did not have the tools of the laughter as well. So I can achieve that balance in my life. That I just spent, and some of you know this, a year. When I moved to Florida, I spent 1 year in a 30-foot trailer in my brother's warehouse parking lot, sharing the warehouse with raccoons. I mean, it was not a great living condition to be in for a year. If we had not had laughter as a coping skill, I don't know if I could have made it through that. And yet we use laughter as a coping skill. And so knowing how effective it is, knowing how it helps people, you can't walk away from the message. You just can't, because we are here to serve. And what a wonderful service in a time when people can be so troubled, to know that you have tools to help them.
You see, I think of, I forget which philosopher said that you can't sprinkle perfume on other people without getting some on yourself.
Right.
And I think that's a piece of you that I understand and love so much. You give so much. And you talk about what you get and how important the tools are, but you're so generous. And I imagine that gives meaning and brings things back to you that are important. So we thank you for that. I'm making that observation very personally. What has got you jazzed these days?
Oh my God. So I've got a few things going on. I have gotten finally, remember guys, speaking's not easy. It has taken me years to get into the National Funeral Directors Association. I would apply year after year to speak at their conference, and every year they would turn me down. They didn't know who I was. I kept applying and finally got a door opened, and then it blew wide open. And I just got back from the second year speaking at their convention. I have in for next year. They may take me or not, but I actually am developing online courses now for funeral directors to get continuing education credits. So that, you know, when we talk about SEO and credibility and building that, borrow it. Being, you know, somebody building courses for NFDA makes me have credibility within the industry, which is great. I mean, I tell people, I have written an article in an international publication now for 9 years. And that sounds impressive, doesn't it? But it's Funeral Home and Cemetery News. Maybe you've read it, maybe not. I've been there for 9 years, and you don't know if people read it. And then you show up at the convention and find out, oh, people know who I am, and they're reading this stuff I write every month. Because writing can be pretty lonely. You don't know who it's going to receive it. And so I'm doing that. I got involved with an organization called Opus Peace, and they do a program called Soul Injury. You guys can look it up, Soul Injury. And it is amazing. I went to their training, and I am now a board of director member doing their marketing council, you know, in charge of that, trying to get their message out. And it is absolutely incredible work that they are doing with soul injuries, which is different from PTSD. It's really this part of ourselves when we've gone through some level of trauma where we push that feeling away because it's so painful. We don't want to, you know, be a part of that. We push it aside and we never feel whole. And so it's this way of taking this unmourned loss and this unforgiven guilt and these aspects of our experience and bringing them back in through self-compassion and love. And it is a powerful, transformative program to help people. And so I'm loving it.
Yeah, it strikes me that you are attracted to that because of your soul, because you show so much of that. And it sounds like a spiritual kind of an aspect where you can apply what you know and some of the things that we do. But it's more spiritual than scientific or intellectual, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think everything we do is we're adding tools to our toolbox. They all work together. Nothing is separate. The more we learn, the more we grow, the more we involve ourselves in, the better able we are to bring the message to people. And I know in my own world, I just got off a phone call with someone who's really struggling with some health issues. And I have someone else going through a relationship issue. And I've got another friend going through a cancer. I mean, all of us can sit here and list people who are really going through a challenging time right now. And if we can help in some way by having tools to offer, if we have something to offer in any way, wow, doesn't that make the day worth getting up for?
I see in behind you a collection of little prints.
Can I get it?
Yeah,
Can you
books.
see it?
What is? Tell us about your. I know a little bit about it. So tell us, why do you have that collection? What does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh, thanks. So I read the Little Prince book way back when I was a youngin and just loved it and read it and read it. My original one is there. And my son moved to Europe, and the next thing you know, everywhere my children travel, they get me a Little Prince in another language. So I have it in Russian, German, Spanish. I mean, it goes on, and I have so many different versions. I have a pop-up version. And then I was in Belgium when I was visiting my son in Ghent, and they're known for their tapestry, and I found that in a little store. And now that I am no longer living in a trailer, I was able to find a place in my study here to display it.
The book
And
speaks to you somehow.
it does. You know, this
What does it say to you?
idea, I don't know how many of you I can't see. Raise your hand. I can't see you. Have read The Little Prince, but this idea
It was
of
read 2, 3, 4, 5 out of about 20.
yeah, everybody go get it. It's a little bitty book, but it's deep. And I also have some prints from it. But when it says it is only with the heart that one can see rightly, that which is essential is invisible to the eye.
Say that again. Say that again.
It's only with the heart that one can see rightly. That which is essential is invisible to the eye.
And that speaks to your heart.
It does. And the grief work I do, and the talk about his rose and the fox and the journeys and the different planets he visited and who he met along his journeys. And what a beautiful story. Don't watch the version on Netflix. It wasn't very good. But read the book. I have it in any language you want to read it in. I can pretty much hook you up. But there's something about that, you know, as we read, as you can see, part of our challenge of our move was how many books do we donate to libraries, and you know, we love books and where they can take us. And I wrote one because I was at a talk to a group of cancer patients, and this man, I was talking about stress reduction and laughter being one of those tools. And where do you get this information? Where did you read this? And I said, nowhere. It's how I live. I just want to share with you because cancer can be stressful. So I can't find this anywhere. I can't find this. He just kept hounding me. And I finally said, yes. He said, where? I said, I'll start writing the book tonight.
And the title of the book is?
So I realize I'm using the book right now to hold the iPad up high enough. So sorry.
Okay.
This is the book. And I will tell you, my dad hated the title, so I knew it was a good one. And I had a friend who did the illustration, so I made it so it looked.
Pam is showing the book right now to everybody.
So people would look at the book and go, that just looks so fun. They hadn't read what I wrote yet, which is fun. And I want to tell you something about the book was interesting about the process. Number one, for anybody thinking about it, you can research a book and find footnotes and research, or you can just write what you know. I just wrote what I knew. It's easier. But I also wrote it very, you know, left brain. I have to write this book. And I kept showing it to people, and I was just about done editing, ready to send it to the publisher. And somebody said, Nancy, it's a really good book, but it's not funny, and you're funny. And I realized the whole book had been written left brain. And I turned around and on a Sunday did a 6-hour snark session. And I just started getting snarky everywhere I could, having random musings and little funny stuff and, you know, ninjas and just making myself laugh, basically. And that was me. Now I used all of me in the book, and that's what came out. So don't hold back. Don't hold back who you are. Don't think you need to not let your light shine because of other people.
I think that you are a wonderful representation that we all can take the lesson that you are not, it's not so much that you're a laughter leader as you are what has become of a laughter leader.
Mm-hmm.
And you are becoming. And this is, you know, you're on your journey. And who knows, you know, something will come after this.
Absolutely.
It's important for everyone to remember that, you know, the laughter leader is one hat that you wear, and you have many hats in that in your wardrobe, so to speak. And it can be a stepping stone, or it's part of what you weave into the tapestry of your life. It's not the be all and the end all, but it's a pretty nice thing. And I appreciate your emphasis on the sense of community that we have, that we call the family of merry mirth makers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just tell you all, one of the things I tell every audience I speak to, and I mean this sincerely to you guys, is that once you meet me, I never leave you, but I don't stalk you. So, you know, if anybody needs that information or advice, or you're coming down to Florida, hey, put me up here for a week. I'm 3 miles to a beach, best beaches in the country. Just call. We're so accessible, all of us, to each other.
And you still know where the trailer is?
I do. It's still
Okay.
there. Don't move into it with the bunk beds. Trust me, you'll like where I am now better.
Okay. All right. As we wrap this up, does something occur to you that you would say, okay, if there's one thing I would want to share with everybody, or it would be this. Do you have a thought like that for us?
Don't stop. I can't tell you how many nights I sit here sometimes saying, this is too hard. I'm just done. You know, I'm sitting at this desk till midnight. I work a full-time job, come home, and I was at this desk till midnight last night. I spend weekends at this desk sometimes, because not all the time. I have time still for fun. I walk that beach, trust me. But there are nights where you say, wow, you know, I'm pushing a rock uphill and this seems really hard. And then that call comes, and then that opening happens, and then that opportunity shows up. And you think, wow, there's nowhere I'd rather be. So you just don't stop. And if you believe in the message and you believe in how important it is to reach people, there's never a reason to walk backwards.
Wow. What words of wisdom, words from the heart. And
I'm deep.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you for helping us to begin this process of conversations. We will do more of these. Thank you for everything that you've done for the movement, for the kinds of things that we are, for the people that we are becoming. And you've helped so many to become more than maybe they ever thought they could be. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, everybody.
Do you hear the applause? Can you hear the applause? I love you, dear. Thank you, Nancy. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is supposed to.
Stop recording. I'll start singing Lydia again.
Now we'll. Bye.